Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the Retire Higher podcast. My name is Kris Bashford, and I've got a lovely guest with me, Miss Brittany Kohnke. She is a registered investment advisor and RSSA, that is a registered Social Security Analyst. And so she is our guest today, and we've got a great topics today. We're going to talk about uh, why retirement planning should never be uh, done in silos, where it should never happen in just, hey, just one little area. There's so many different elements to retirement. And so we figure, why not bring somebody who's been doing it for a little while? And so just give us a quick moment, just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your experience, kind of just to share your bona fides with the audience. And then, I've got some great questions for you. And so it should be a good time.
Okay, yeah. Like Kris said, my name is Brittany Kohnke. I am a registered investment advisor. Been at this a couple of years now, with my background also being in education. So I really pride myself on teaching people the ins and outs of retirement and all that is finance. I'm really looking forward to talking about a topic that a lot of people really overlook, and they think that retirement planning is just investments, and that is furthest from the truth. So I'm looking forward to this
Well,
conversation.
great. Well, let's get right in it. First of all, I'm gotta say, many Americans spend decades saving for retirement, but when retirement finally arrives, they're faced with dozens of important decisions. These are, Social Security. What do I do? Medicare. What do I do? Have I earned and saved enough money to go ahead and help me for the next 20 years of retirement? And so these are all things that every American faces. And so we want to try to demystify some of that and at least give a course on what we do. Now, here at the Retire Higher podcast, powered by Activist, we want you to know that if you have questions, if you have things that you are concerned with, we do have advisors like Brittany available to help guide you through that process. So hopefully we handle a couple things today. Let me first of all ask Britt. So when people hear about retirement planning, they often think about investments. Why is retirement much bigger than just managing a portfolio?
I mean, retirement is really several different things. You've got your investment, sure, but you've got to look at, what are my expenses? What are my taxes going to be like? What is Social Security? What about Medicare, unexpected healthcare costs? All of these things come together to create an entire picture that is in addition to investments. And so we have to think about, okay, how do our investments affect all of these other things, and how do these other things affect our investments?
Absolutely. Yeah, that matters. So basically, retirement isn't just one decision.
No,
And it really has, several decisions working together in concert to accomplish a singular result, or at least a strategy. And so with that being the case, let me ask you another question here. Kind of walk us through what a typical retirement planning conversation feels like.
I think it's like any sort of relationship, right? You're going to first ask the client, tell me a little bit about yourself, about your background. What are you looking for in terms of what retirement looks like? Do you want to travel? Do you want to buy a new house? So on and so forth. And then let's get down to the data. What does your investments look like? Do you have a pension? Any sort of income streams? Are you married? Now we're talking about, Social Security and how that may play into it. What does your healthcare look like? Do you have life insurance? What kind of legacy? So all of these questions are really to gather data so that we can start building a plan that makes sense for the client. Because at the end of the day, you can accumulate as much money as you want, but if you don't have a strategy and a plan behind not only how to spend the money, but how to come up with things for, unexpected costs, unexpected healthcare costs, it can really put a damper in that investment portfolio.
You bring up some good points. Let me ask you, in your many meetings with different retirees or pre-retirees, what are some of the questions that you believe they should come in with that will help you in your guidance to them?
I think first and foremost, I mean, we're in finance. You need to know your numbers. You need to know, what is it that I need to live on? What is it that I want to live on? know about the what ifs. If you were to pass away, is your spouse taken care of? Do you have life insurance? What does that look like? Ask your advisor those questions, and then ask your advisor, what are some things that I'm missing? Do I need a trust? Do I need estate planning?
Yeah, big one.
Do I need to talk to a Medicare specialist, Social Security? Good financial planners, investment advisors, they're going to have a team that they can go to and say, hey, my client is really worried about taxes, once they start pulling their RMDs. Can you walk them through how that may look for them? My client is coming up on Medicare. Can you help them? I think when you are someone who is looking for a planning conversation, think of all the different things that would come into play with that.
Yeah, you bring up so many different great points here, and many people don't understand it. In the sense of they work their 40 years or so, they get to this point in life, and it's like everything just goes nuts. You've seen those pictures of people's hair going crazy, like it's electrified, and that's kind of what this feeling. There's all this anxiety that's there, and so here at Activist, we certainly are want to try to again demystify some of those, try to dumb it down to things that people commonly understand. Tell us a little bit, because you've been with us here just for a short time, but what was it that attracted you to here? I know you came from Edward Jones and a career there.
Yeah.
Why Activist? Why is that now an important part of your planning tool?
Well, besides the great people that I've met
Thank you.
here
Yes.
and, had the chance to work with, I love that Activist looks at the entire picture. It's not just about products. It's not just about, well, you can make this commission, or let's put all your money here and invest in a portfolio. It really looks at investments, life insurance, Medicare, Social Security, estate planning, everything that comes full circle when it comes to someone's financial picture. And that is the type of advisor that I am. I want to look at every single piece so that my client is taken care of regardless of what happens.
Spoken as a true teacher, so and yes, we appreciate that, and that's really, I think you encapsulate that greatly. That is our goal. We want to help people where they're at. We're not going to try to make it into something that we're going to see exactly, as you said, what the data shows, and then we're going to take that information and we're going to see if we can put together the proper alignment in those many areas. And as she said, it's not just about what you've got saved in your 401ks or IRAs. It is something where we're going to take a look at your Social Security optimization and your claiming strategies around that. I mean, I hear, and you're an RSSA, so you said there's over 2,700 different rules surrounding claiming strategies.
Yep.
And it's something like $111,000 of the average American loses by not going and getting the proper counsel at the point of that. So you can help people with that, and that's a great part of what you do here. So that's awesome. Yeah. So let's take a step back. So let's look at it from this vantage point. Is there any when somebody's looking at their retirement, they look over 20 years, is there a particular way that we want to approach that 20-year time horizon? Like, is there something that you say, hey, let's look at these elements first, and then we go and we build on that with some of the other tools, and like the estate planning, like the your chronic care risk management? How do you got to approach it after
so
you get that data?
You are, let me clarify, you're retired and you're looking at the next 20 years, or you're 20 years to retirement?
You're thank you. Yeah, it's you're now at that point. You're looking at the next 20 years. You're turning 65. You're like, hey, mortality is 81 to 84. Okay, well, how am I going to make through these next 20 years?
Right, sure.
From that vantage point.
Sure. So I think first and foremost, you have to think about, how is the income going to come in, right? Is it going to come into from investments? Is it going to come in from something that's more consistent, like Social Security or a pension, so on and so forth? And then you need to start having conversations to plan around, well, what happens if I need to go into a skilled nursing facility? Am I prepared for that? What happens if my son loses his job and now he needs to come live with us? Or let's even go more positive, I guess. What if we want to downsize and then travel? Like, am I prepared for that? So I think you need to look at the next 20 years as a spectrum, right? What do I want to accomplish during those 20 years? And am I prepared for the what ifs? And as I say the what ifs, am I also protected in terms of my legacy, right? Am I in positions where my money will be safe and can pass down,
Absolutely.
free and
Legacy
clear?
planning is huge.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they get to this point, Medicare is its own puzzle in itself.
Yes,
So
indeed.
really understanding Medicare and how that will affect one's finances. Social Security, as you mentioned, there's so many different planning strategies around that. So really understanding the different options for you and your family, and not just taking it as, well, I'm going to wait till 70 so I can get the most benefit. For some people, that's not the best claiming strategy. Mm-hmm. You got to look at the entire picture. And then, as you mentioned, healthcare costs are rising, and long-term care is something like, I think I saw 60% of us are going to need in the next 20 years.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's a real cost for many of us that I think we get to this point where we don't want to ask, what does that look like? Or we don't want to face it. And unfortunately, I've seen it even personally. We don't face it until we're in the midst of the chaos. And that's the last time you want to ask those questions about, well, how am I going to fund long-term care?
Yeah. Yeah. And, people have to understand that even though if you are successful and you get the right Medicare health plan and you have the right doctors in place, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to take care of yourself if you have a catastrophic event, such as a heart attack, a stroke, cancer, an aggressive form of cancer, where you're fighting that battle every day. And so what I know, I have conversations with my clients and I say, hey, you know what? Medicare is not going to cover a lot of the expenses that you're going to deal with in retirement. They're not related to an actual health insurance cost that's going to get covered by a plan. You have to, that's going to come out of your savings. That's going to come out of your retirement accounts. And so if you can offset that by buying a form of insurance or some type of coverage that will help you fight the battle of, of dealing with expenses, costs, mortgage payments, things like that, while you're trying to deal with this dreaded disease to get over that hump, I tell you, you want to talk to a counselor, you want to talk to an advisor who can help you do that. And so I'm glad that, I'm part of Aclivis. I'm glad you're a part of Aclivis, and we can help people with those very types of decisions.
Absolutely, because I've seen it firsthand. A situation like that can be catastrophic to a family. Yeah. And all it took was someone having the foresight of, hey, why don't we look into this? What if? We do it with our houses. We buy house insurance,
absolutely,
home insurance, and some of us won't ever use it. This is no different.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being here today. That's
really
all the time we have today. But man, it's a great conversation. A lot of great stuff that can come out of this. Folks, if you are interested in finding out more about Aclivis Group, about Brittany and the services that she provides, please give us a call. We're at theaclivisgroup.com. That's ACCLIVUS, theaclivisgroup.com. Feel free to reach out to us. We certainly want to go ahead and be a part of your planning strategy, and we hope we give you the chance. If you're an agent out there and you want to learn more about how maybe you can join our team, we certainly welcome that as well. You can email us at info@aclivis.us or info@theaclivisgroup.com. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time on the Retire Higher podcast, powered by Aclivis.